My name is Iris Zaki. I'm the director of the film Unsettling.
And is this your first time at Astra Film?
Actually, it's my second time at Astra. I was here in 2012 with my first film, My Culture Shifts. It feels so long ago, and it's so nice to be here again.
But how did your relationship with documentary, the very first, how did it start, and what were the things that drove you on the path that you're on now?
Actually, I wasn't planning to be a documentary filmmaker at all. I moved to London and I changed the course that I was supposed to study to documentary filmmaking just because I didn't want to read and write a lot, and it seemed like an easier choice. I just wanted to live there in London. And then I happened to work in a Jewish hotel as a receptionist, and the conversations that I had with the religious guests were fascinating to me. So when the time has come for me to make my final project for the course, I made it about my interaction with the guests, and that was My Culture Shifts, my first film that was here in Astra in 2012. It even won the student award. But when I made it and I showed it to people and I saw their reactions, it was such a strong experience for me in so many ways, and it was the moment that I realized that I have to keep making documentaries. So what's the thing that started as just, submitting a film to my course became the biggest passion of my life and something that I decided that I have to keep doing.
So you mentioned this, that the beginning was somehow influenced by the ability to get into dialogue with people, and film, or culture in general and film in particular, is heralded as this sort of building bridges, creating dialogue, but it's not necessarily a given. So how do you see that documentary can make this possible? What does it take to create a conversation through film?
I think every documentary is based on the relationship between the director and their subjects. In my films, it's very direct because this relationship is filmed, and this is the heart of the film. In the three films that I made, it was always about my conversations, the conversations that I have with people, and the dialogue that is created in front of the camera. And in my films, I don't have a pre-interview, I don't do any research, so it's really, for me, the wish to get something that happens very organically and develops throughout the process of the filmmaking. So that's the dialogue between me and people, but also my wish as a filmmaker is to create a dialogue between the viewers and the subject matter or the subjects that they are exposed to, because my films are about communities that I am related to in a way but not a part of. I'm an outsider, and my journey in the community where I place myself in this film Unsettling, it's a Jewish settlement in the West Bank. Before that I had Women in Sync, where I was a hair washer, a shampoo girl in a hair salon, Arab hair salon in Haifa, Israel. So it's always about me coming to a community that I'm not part of and trying to get to know it through individuals, not from this distance of a filmmaker that is making a film about a community, but rather from down upwards through people. And by showing you, the viewers, the community through people, I try to get the same experience that I had. And in order for people to get to know faces from groups that they have a lot of opinions about, preconceptions, because I think it's very important to get to know societies through individuals and not just as one monolithic group.
Concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this, like, going there and spontaneously starting this dialogue. Sometimes when you talk to someone you don't know, it can be that you start performing in front of them, that you put on a mask. And even your PhD, as far as I read about it, it's how can you have a filmic conversation without it feeling like an interview in which you express the opinions that you want to project or you think that people want to hear from you, not necessarily who you are. So how do you go by creating the relationship with your subject and the trust so that you can actually get to the nuanced story that you say is important to you and not just to a small monolithism that we create for ourselves?
Wherever, it's not just me thinking, but that's Goffman's ideas. And when there are more than two people in a room, there is performance. When there is more than one person in a room, there is performance. Once you're not alone, there's another person, you're performing in a sense, and it depends on your relationship with the person. For me, like, my subjects are strangers, I didn't know them before, random people. So of course we have the stress that comes with, communicating with new people. But also there's a camera. And I think that all documentary filmmakers try to get their subject not to perform to the camera, even though today it's very popular to have big studios, talking heads, and the performance is actually part of the performance. For me, it's all about breaking this performance and getting to situations where I'm not feeling like I am here now with the spotlights on me, radio mic. I'm very much aware of like the surrounding and it's like a contract. I came here to answer your questions, to be filmed by these two great people. So for me, I'm trying to get both myself and my subjects to forget about the filmmaking process. So in my first two films, it was through a job that I had. So if I was the receptionist and the camera was, I call it the abandoned camera. I put a camera that is not, it's unmanned. There's no operator behind it, and I'm not behind the camera. So the idea is that the camera is left running, and people forget about it when there is no person behind it operating it. But also I had a job, so it was like when I'm washing women's hair, and there is a camera. First of all, our communication is built. It's like an unmediated communication that is built through the relationship of customer, service giver, and the customer. In Unsettling, it was much more challenging because I did start a job there. It didn't work out. I had to switch my concept. Eventually got to the table, 2 chairs, 3 cameras. And it did feel like a studio. But I still wanted very much not to have interviews. And I realized that, first of all, the fact that the cameras were unmanned did really help in getting people to forget about filmmaking, the filmmaking process, the filming. And a proof to that was that every time when someone stopped and listened, they didn't feel comfortable, I didn't feel comfortable. So when people weren't there, but the cameras were running, we felt more comfortable. No one is listening, even though the cameras are recording. But also, another tool for me is myself. So I try to put myself in a vulnerable position as well by answering my subjects' questions. I'm not out of territory in the sense of like, you can also interview me. And then in my conversations with the settlers, I was talking a lot about my film, about myself, about my beliefs, about my love life. In Women in Sync, someone is asking me how many men I've been with, and I answered. So by being also an equal part of the conversation, and by answering people's questions, I also try to get them to talk. And I really try not to have limits when it comes to my private life, or I don't have anything that I hide. In Unsettling, it was the context there, and the place was very political, so it always got to the political, conversations, and I had really no limits talking about my political beliefs, but also things that are aren't in the film. We talked a lot about personal, stories, and about love, and about, our holidays, and things that really helped me to get into this more friendly atmosphere. And I have a lot of problems maybe with my film, but something that I do feel that I did right is that when I look at the edited conversations, it does look like just two people talking and not like an interview. And that's really my biggest goal and my biggest passion, because my passion is before cinema and making films. It's this motivation my curiosity and my motivation to talk to people.
If you could tell us what the importance of film festival is as you see it.
I think that I told you that I decided to continue making films. It was when I started the festivals, going to festivals, because I was really shocked by how much the film begins with the viewers watching it. Because I made a film, I made it in my bedroom, the first film, Michael Shift, and I was like, I was laughing from some parts, I was like interested in some parts that people said in the edited film, and then I started showing it to people, and they were laughing, and people came to me and they said, I like this, I didn't get this, and I was like, so much content from this, the film is this, but people's reactions are just such a wider experience, and that's still my biggest passion, to go to festivals and show my film to people and listen to what they have to say afterwards. And that's, I think, it's like when the film, you finish making the film, or you stop because you never finish making a film. You have to stop at some point in the editing room, and it's ready. For me, that's the pregnancy time. And then it's born when it gets to people. Like when you put the film for viewers to get their own ideas on it. And there are so many messages that I didn't even know that are there. And it's another conversation that I'm very curious about, my conversation with viewers. And I always try to go to festivals. I always try to be there with my film. I think, especially in documentary, it's fascinating both for the viewers to know what happened and didn't make it to the film, or some stories about the experience of the filmmaker, but also for me, it's super fascinating to see how people watch my film and what are the reactions.